70-742 Lab 8, Configuring Group Policy Processing. So while I give you the description for this, I'm going to go ahead and get my LUN DC1 turned on. That's the only system we'll be working with in this lab. In this lab, we're going to be looking at configuring the processing and precedence of GPOs, blocking inheritance and enforcing policies, configuring security filtering and WMI filtering, configuring loopback processing, and finally using the group policy results wizard. So let's get to it. We'll wait for our VM to come online here. And there we are. Let's go ahead and get logged on. Just waiting for the prompt. Okay, in exercise 8.1, we're going to be configuring the processing and precedence of GPOs. We'll create multiple GPOs and look at overall precedence of the GPOs. Understand that group policies are applied from the top to the bottom. In general, when a GPO is executed after an earlier executed GPO, the GPO executed later overwrites any conflicting settings. If there is more than one GPO at a level, each GPO will be processed as specified by the precedence level. So let's go ahead, and we're going to be working with the Group Policy Management console, so we'll get that opened up. We're also going to be working with Active Directory users and computers, so we're going to open that up. We'll wait a moment for ADUC to come online here. Okay, so we're going to begin. We've got our datum domain expanded. We're going to right-click on Sales, and we're going to select New Organizational Unit. And we're going to name that East. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to create another one named West. New Organizational Unit West. So this is an example of Active Directory topography defined by role and then location. Alternately, you could define your topology by location and then by role. It just depends on what fits your organization. The key is to plan it out and not have to change it later. Once you've defined your Active Directory hierarchy, you want to maintain it because you're going to be tying in your group policy management. You want to make sure that the way you define it is the way that it should be. Okay, so we've got our East and West organizational units created under our Sales OU. So now we're going to switch back over to our group policy management. And we're going to select the Sales OU, and we're going to right-click the Sales OU and say create a GPO in this domain and link it here. And we're going to call that GPO1 and just press enter. Now we're going to expand sales, and we're going to right-click on West and say create a GPO in this domain and link it here. And we're going to call that GPO2 and press enter. For the East, we're going to right-click and we're going to say create a GPO in this domain and link it here. And we're going to call that GPO3. Press enter. We're going to right-click on a datum at the root of our domain and say create a GPO and link it here. And we're going to call that GPO4 and press enter. We're going to go back down to the Sales OU. We're going to right-click, create a GPO and link it here, and call it GPO5 and press enter. Again, we'll right-click the East OU, create a GPO and link it here, and call it GPO, number 6. And again, for East once more, another GPO and link it, and that's GPO7. Select the East OU. Click the Group Policy Inheritance tab. Notice that you can see all those GPOs that were created. What is the order? This is question number 1. What is the order of GPOs that are being applied? Well, record your list. You should see 3, 6, 7, that new GPO 1, then GPO 1, GPO 5, the default domain policy, and then finally GPO 4. Now, if you remember new GPO 1, that was left over from a previous lab. But that's your order of inheritance. 3 is applied first, then 6, then 7. This is the order in which they're applied. Now, select the Group Policy Linked Policy Objects tab and answer question number 2. What are the 3 GPOs linked to the East OU? And list them in order, top to bottom, 3, 6, 7. GPO 3, GPO 6, GPO 7. Left click and select GPO 7. See the little arrows here to the left? Click the double up arrow. Question number 3. What are the 3 POs linked to the East OU, and list them in order? We've changed the order in which they're linked. GPO 7, GPO 3, GPO 6. That's question number 3. Now, let's go back over to the Inheritance tab. What did that do to our order of inheritance? Question number 4. What is the order of GPOs that are now being applied? Record those in your answer for question number 4. Additionally, once you've recorded question number 4, take a screenshot of your entire browser, because I need to be able to see your name in the upper right, and paste that into step number 21. Once you've got your screenshot, that concludes exercise 8.1. Let's move on to 8.2. Configuring blocking inheritance and enforcing policies. In this exercise, we're going to modify the order and precedence of GPOs by blocking inheritance and using enforced policies. If you want group policies to stop inheriting, you can use block inheritance. If you want to ensure a group policy is not overwritten, you can select enforced. So we're still on that East OU. Let's right-click the East OU and select block inheritance. We now see that blue circle with the exclamation point. This indicates that we're blocking inheritance. Question number 5. What is the order of GPOs that are being applied to the East OU? 7, 3, 6. In our left pane, see GPO number 4, select it, right-click on it, and select Enforced. Puts a little lock on it. You can see that it's now being enforced. Let's press the F5 key to refresh our view. We can click OK. Now, back on our East organizational unit. Select it, and on the Group Policy Inheritance tab, question number 6. What is the order of GPOs that are being applied to the East OU? Record your answer. Once you've got your question recorded, take a screenshot of, here again, your entire browser. I need to be able to see your name, and paste it into step number 6. Let's move on to exercise 8.3, configuring security filtering and WMI filtering. In this exercise, we're going to fine-tune the processing of GPOs by using security filtering and WMI filtering. To give you control how GPOs are applied, you can use security filtering and WMI filtering. Security filtering allows you to define groups and users and their associated permissions for a GPO. WMI filtering allows you to look for certain parameters on the computer that GPOs are running on, such as a particular operating system or a certain type of hardware. Okay, so group policy management is still open, but let's jump back over to Active Directory users and computers. And we're going to right click on the Sales OU and we're going to say new user. We're going to create a new user account. Now the first name is going to be Jason. Last name will be Taggart. And for the user logon name, we're going to type in J Taggart. Oops, I'm going to click there, J Taggart. We're going to click next. We're going to apply our default password. We're going to select password never expires. Yep, we know. We click next. We click finish. Okay, now let's go back over to our group policy management. Let's select our GPO number 5 and you select the Delegation tab. Click the Advanced button in the lower right. Let's answer question number 7. What permissions are needed for a GPO to apply to a user? Let's take a look at those settings. This is in your reading, so be sure you understand this. What permissions are needed for a GPO to apply to a user? Well, let's think about it in the terms of being able to view a document. What permissions are needed for a user to read a document? Well, they have to be allowed read, right? So half of your answer is allowed read. And if you are able to view the group policy, but you can't apply the settings, it won't work. So you have to be allowed to apply the group policy. So the permissions needed for a user to apply a GPO is allow read and allow apply group policy. Question number 7. Let's select the add button. We're going to type in Mr. Taggart's first name and check names and click OK. We're going to deny Mr. Taggart from being able to apply the group policy. This is how we deny group policies. Click OK. You're going to get a warning. You are setting a deny permissions entry. Deny entries take precedence over allow entries. This means if a user is a member of 2 groups, one that is allowed a permission and another that is denied the same permission, the user will be denied that permission. This also applies to security groups. If you apply and allow permission to one and apply a deny permission to that same security group for the same resource in 2 different areas, it will be denied. Do you want to continue? Yes, we do. We understand. So we have set deny permissions for GPO 5 for Mr. Taggart. In our left pane, let's go ahead and we're going to select WMI filters. There's none defined. We're going to right click, we're going to say new, and we're going to call that WMI filter 1. And we're going to say add. We want to add a query. What is this filter going to look for? We're going to start off by typing the word select and then a space and asterisk. Asterisk means all. Look at everything. Select everything from Win32 underscore processor. So we're telling it to look at the processor. Where, this is what we're telling it to look for, what characteristic of the processor we're looking for. Where address width equals, and then do your small quotes, 32. Select all, make sure that there's spaces here. Make sure that there's spaces from Win32 underscore processor, where address width equals 32. If you've got that, click OK and click Save. Now, select the WMI filter 1 so that we can see the query that will be applied and paste this into step number 19. Moving on, that completes exercise 8.3. Exercise 8.4, configuring loopback processing, and this is easier than you think. In this exercise, you'll configure the computer settings to overwrite the user settings when applying GPO settings. Just as the name implies, loopback processing allows the group policy processing order to circle back and reapply the computer policies after all the user policies and logon scripts run. It is intended to keep the configuration of the computer the same regardless of who logs on. In our group policy management, let's go ahead and select GPO1, and we're going to right click and select Edit. I'm going to maximize our editor. I'm going to move our center bar over a little bit, make it a little bit easier to see. And we're going to expand Policies, then expand Administrative Templates. We're going to expand System, and we're going to select Group Policy. Now, to make it easier, I'm going to select the top and tell it to sort by name. If you scroll the list all the way down, you'll see right here, Configure User Group Policy Loopback Processing Mode. Let's go ahead and double click that. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to select Enabled, and then we want to answer our question number 8. What is the difference between replace and merge? Well, this is where you need to read. And right here is those descriptions. Replace indicates, merge indicates. Answer question number 8. Once you've answered question number 8, let's go ahead and we're going to change the mode from replace to merge. If you've changed that to merge, let's go ahead and get a screenshot and paste that into step number 6. I'm going to move this up and click OK. And guess what? We just finished our loopback processing exercise. Let's do the lab challenge. But before we do the lab challenge, because we're going to be running the group policy results wizard, well, we need to be able to run that against a computer. So let's go ahead and go back to our lab, and we're going to tell Lund Server 1 to turn on. Now, I already did this, so I'm going to go to the console, and we're going to hit Control-Alt-Delete to log on. And we're not going to log on as administrator. We're going to log on as Jason Taggart. So I'm going to put in J Taggart and our password. And what we're going to do is we're going to instruct the group policy processing to retrieve any new group policies that need to be applied. So while I wait for Server Manager to start up, I'm going to right click the Start button. I'm going to select Command Prompt. And I'm going to type in GP update /force. And this will instruct the computer to retrieve any new group policies that are computer policies, any new group policies that are user policies for this user. Usually takes a moment or two to run. So we're just going to sit and we're going to watch. Shouldn't take very long. There's computer policy update. And there's the user policy update. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to type exit and close our command prompt. We're still waiting for Server Manager to start up, but I don't care. User's logged on, the user's been logged on, we've applied group policies to the account. We're going to go back to our Lund DC1. Now, we can go ahead, we can close out the Group Policy Management Editor. On your left column in Group Policy Management, go to the bottom and see the Group Policy Results. We're going to right click on that and we're going to run the results wizard. But first, I kind of jumped the gun. So let me tell you what we're going to be doing. The Group Policy Results Wizard. And what this does is we use the Group Policy Results Wizard to view current GPO settings being applied to a user or computer. Now, as we've been working on this, we've been applying different GPOs and such. But maybe we're not quite sure how those GPOs are being applied. Or maybe a user is having an issue with getting access to a resource that they should by a GPO being applied to their account. The Group Policy Results Wizard allows you to reach out to another system or your own and retrieve all the computer and user policies that are being applied, or maybe having an error, but being able to see all the settings and all the policies that are being applied to that system and user. So let's go ahead and run it. We're going to click Group Policy Results Wizard. We're going to click Next. We're going to say another computer. We're going to do Browse. We're going to type in lun-svr1. Hit Enter. We're going to do Next. And we can see it only displays those users who have previously logged on to a computer. We talked about this in our lesson. How would I be able to determine the results of a policy being applied for a user if they've never logged onto a system? You can't. That's where group policy modeling comes in. But we're going to select the JTaggart and we're going to say Next. We can see that the user that it's going to be processed for is JTaggart. The computer it's going to be processed for is lun-svr1. We're going to click Next. We're going to click Finish. It's generating a report. What it's doing is it's reaching out to lun-svr1 and it has detected the settings. Fast link was detected. We can see when was the last computer policy refresh? When was the last user policy refresh? What are the details of that? We can see exactly what is being applied, what is being denied. We can see that for the computer details, its name, the site it is in, and we can view its security group membership. We can see the status of the processing of the components. We can view whatever settings happen to be applied by group policies, and we can see that from the computer perspective, the only policy being applied is the default domain policy. And as we previously discussed, since we're part of a domain, the local GPO gets denied. Under user details, here again we can see the username, the domain, the organizational unit that they're part of, security group membership, that component status. And again, we can see the group policies that are being applied and those policies that are being denied. We can also view policy events. We can view the processing of group policies, and here we can see them being applied. If I double click, I can view that information. And this is how we are able to run the Group Policy Results Wizard to see how policies are being applied to a user and computer. That completes your lab challenge. Thank you for performing Lab 70-742, Lab 8.